Hello, this is going to be the help video for the Chapter 2 Greenfoot. It is going to introduce the scenarios to you a little bit more, and I'm going to explain how to comment your code when you start editing it in order for you to show me your work. And so the two scenarios we're going to work with are Little Crab and Fat Cat. And this is the first time that I've done this semester, so bear with me just a little bit if it gets a little choppy. Hopefully it won't, but let's give it a try. I'm going to go to the Fat Cat just so you can kind of see what the goal is going to be. When we run the Fat Cat, if I enlarge this to the screen here just a little bit, and I don't know about the lag, that's the thing that I was a little bit iffy on. There is some lag here. We will see how this works. If I run Fat Cat, this is the type of editing or program that you guys are going to be working. You're going to edit what the cat does in order to have the cat act in a certain manner. So right now the cat is sleeping. The cat is shouting hooray. Hooray! There's a little bit of a delay. And there are other actions that you will program the cat to do. Those actions are not described specifically in the textbook, like they don't show you line by line how to do that. And so I'm going to give you a sample or a little bit of a teaser of what you're going to do, but I'm going to use Little Crab in order to do that. The homework or the assignments, just so you can kind of get an idea, are going to be at the end of the worksheet for Chapter 2. And at the end of the worksheet, there are several things for you to fill out in the textbook, but at the very end there's extra practice, and now there's going to be some extra drill and practice from your textbook, and those are, some of them are just hand exercises, like this chart you will fill in by hand. The next chart you will fill in by hand. Those are paper pencil. But then we get to some programming right here. You're going to be programming these exercises 27 through 33, and you will be programming the exercises 34 to 38. So for example, you're going to change the method so that when you click the act, if the cat is tired, it sleeps a little bit. Now, that's just an example of what you need to do. I am not going to do that for you. I am going to show you something similar in the Little Crab environment, so then hopefully that will help you complete Fat Cat. And then you will either need to show me your code or you'll need to upload your code in order to complete the exercises. So this is a graded assignment, or it's an assignment, it's type of assessment that I'm going to use to check for your understanding. I moved to the Little Crab environment, and this was just the scenario from your lab scenarios. It's Little Crab, the first one. And I'm going to place a crab in the world by right-clicking and creating a new crab. And I might place more than one crab in the world, and you will be experimenting with these on your own as you read through the textbook. But I want to show you a few things that might be specific to when you get to doing Fat Cat, and a couple other hints that might help you along the way. So it will take, this video will be a little bit longer because I'm actually going to be showing you some things on the screen here just a little bit. So when you go to make changes in your code, you can double click on the class over here and it opens up the editor window. It opens up the source code. There is going to be a little bit of a lag here. All right. And when you open up that source code, for example, right here, you're going to be writing code in order to perform actions. Like right now, if I wanted the crab to do anything, if I right-clicked and I said I want the crab to act, I'm going to inherit something from act. Let's say I'm going to have it move. If I tell it to move, I can tell it to move, and I'm going to say 25. And it should move 25. So I hit OK. And when it goes to move 25, I don't know if you saw it there, but it did move on the screen just a little bit. Now what you can do though is you can actually write that into the code. And so you're going to say move, and I'm going to say 50 so we can see it move a little bit more. And then when I click on the act button, because that code is inside the act method, then it's going to move 50. This right here is a comment. and you're going to use those comments in order to show me your progress when you guys do your worksheet solutions. And I'll explain that just a little bit more. Let's see what this does. We do need to compile. You can compile on this screen or you can compile on the other screen. Notice the shaded lines here. When you hit compile, they should disappear. I will have to add a new crab to my world here. I'm going to add a new crab, and then I'm going to just click on the Act button once. I'm not going to click Run. I just want to click Act because it's going to do that one. It's going to go one cycle. It's going to loop through it once. And so you can see that it moved 50. Now when you click Run, that moves continuously. So there went the crab, and I can pause. Now what's nice is you're playing around, you can actually grab those objects and put it back onto the screen, and you can test some other things. For example, I could test to see, is the crab at the edge? And it should pop up with a window, it says false, so no, the crab is not at the edge. Okay. Now, when you go to creating exercises, and when you go to create or doing your homework, let's say that I want you to make the crab turn and move forward. If I go into the code here, and I ask it to turn, and let's say turn 45, which would be 45 degrees. If this was an exercise, what I want you to do is to make a comment right above it. Let's say this is exercise crab practice. You will be doing using the exercise numbers, like you might say exercise 2.33 as an example, and then that will comment and tell me that that's that particular exercise. I'm going to compile. We're going to come back. I'm going to place a crab in the world, and we're going to test it by using the Act button once. So if you look, it turned and it did move. So it's doing both. It's moving and turning. Now if I want it to run continuously, we are going to get a little dizzy. But now I just wrote code in order to make the crab turn and in order to make the crab move. If I had another task, and let's say that I wanted to check to see, or I wanted the crab to do something if the crab was at the edge of the world. This introduces the if statement a little bit. I can choose, and I'm going to go up here, I'm going to go to documentation instead of source code. I can choose methods that are in the crab class that I have access to. And actually what I need to do, that's the crab class. The crab class is a subclass of actor, so it really doesn't have anything of its own yet because we haven't created it. So I need to go back, and I'm going to go to the actor, and I'm going to open the documentation. This is fairly important because it's going to tell us that all of the methods that you're going to have access to within the actors, and whether the actor is a crab or whether the actor is a cat or whether the actor is a dog or whether the actor is a door, you're going to have access to all of this information. So if I take a look in the actor class, I have access to all kinds of methods. I can get an image, I can get X, I can get Y, I can move, I can set a location, I can turn, and there is a method that is at edge. And I'm going to take a look, and I'm going to look at that method or use it. It returns a Boolean. And so on the left-hand side here in this documentation, it tells me the data type that's being returned. If it's void, that means there's no data type. So I've got some things that are returning Booleans. I got some things returning integers. I got something that's returning a world, which you will use later. So it's important to start to learn how to read that documentation. If I jump back now to the little crab scenario, and I change back from documentation to source code, I was trying to figure out what the command was for is at edge. And so that's why I went to this documentation. I wanted to look up is at edge. I needed to know exactly how that was worded. This is your signature for this method. It returns a Boolean, is at edge, and it has no parameters. So if I go back, I can say something like if is at edge, because that returns a Boolean, then I'm going to turn 45 and move 50. I can also auto re-indent the layout. Your textbook talks about that. I'm going to compile and come back to the crab screen, create a new crab, place it on the screen, and I'm going to click Act. And it does nothing. And that's because in that if statement, the if statement only is going to act if the crab is at the edge. Since is at edge is false, because the crab is not at the edge, is at edge, is false, it's not going to happen. Another thing that I'm going to show you, and I went ahead and did some editing. It is very difficult to get the crab to actually end up right on the edge and to try to edit that with the act method. And so, or with the single act method. So we're going to run a scenario that if it's at the edge, it's going to turn and move 5. Otherwise, it's just going to turn, or excuse me, move 5. So the crab is always going to move 5 unless it's at the edge, and then it's going to turn. If we, I believe I compiled that. If we come back, no, I did not compile, so we'll need to compile to get rid of the gray lines. And we run this after I add a new crab to the world. We're going to hopefully see, if I just hit the act button, you can see that it moves 5. It's not at the edge, so it's not doing anything. But if I click run, it's going to go to the edge. Once it hits the edge, it rotates and continues on moving. And so now we've got a interactive, not an interactive, but we've got a critter that's chasing around the screen based upon some code that you had written. Going back then to that code, you're going to be doing a series of exercises, and that's an example of one that you might do. So every time that you do a new exercise, I would want you to, so for example, I think the first one, let's say that if our first exercise was just to turn, we did 45, something like that. And then let's say our next one was that we did a move, and we did move 50. So those are two different commands. So you did a turn command, and then you did a move command. And let's say as you go through, you're going to be changing things up. Well, I don't want you to lose your work, so to speak. So what I want you to do is, as you keep adding new code, so then let's say this was our last exercise, because that's more complicated. We'll move it towards the top. You're going to use a special type of comment statement, and you're going to comment out all of this code. So this code's not going to execute if you comment it out. That's what these two little forward slashes are. There's another type of commenting though, and that's a slash asterisk. And at the very end of everything you want to comment out, it's asterisk slash. So this code down here will not execute if I recompile and I run. I forgot to add a crab. And it starts acting because it was running. And so that was that particular exercise. If I pause and I go back and I want you to make a change to that code, and let's say and say this time, so this one was a turns 45 degrees to the right. And that was another exercise, whatever exercise number that was. Now let's say I want you to create a new exercise and to do roughly the same thing, except speed it up and turn left. So I'm going to turn, instead of a positive 45, a negative 45, and I'm going to speed it up. We're going to move by 10 instead of by 5. So now that's a new exercise. So what I want to do is make a comment, and this exercise is turns 45 degrees left, and it's faster. But now I got to comment out my code down here. And every one of those sections I do a forward slash asterisk, and then an asterisk, and then a forward slash. So now if I compile, and it did not like the command move. This is a good example of an error message. You are supposed to record error messages. Method move in class Greenfoot cannot be applied to the given types. So I have a problem. It says it's required an int, and that means that I forgot to tell it how far to move. So it needs an argument in there, and so I send the value 10 in, compile it, the error message is taken care of, add a new crab, and we will see if this code will run. And it's running. It's going a little bit faster, so that's the new exercise. So now, every time you guys complete one of those exercises at the end of the chapter with Fat Cat, this is what I want you to be doing. I want you to comment out the previous exercise, do the new one, comment it out, do the new one, comment it out. So then you actually have a progression of all of the work that you did. And this is a file that I can look at and verify that you did the work. And it's also a file that you can upload when we get to that point of uploading our projects. So that's it for this video. It's a helper video, so they tend to go a little bit longer. There are probably a few edits I need to make with it. We will see. But good luck with Chapter 2.